Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood-turning tools. Made by a wood-turner, for wood-turners. I've parted this down as much as I can. I've sanded it, sanded this end here too, and now we're going to part off. Remember, there's a hole in here, so it's going to jump off a little quicker than you think it would. And I'm going to hand sand what's left here, but if I rub the bevel of the tool, it really smooths out the wood. Even though I'm going the wrong way on the grain, it'll get pretty smooth. Now, the other thing is I've switched to a swept back spindle gouge because it's not as fat as my bowl gouge, so I can get in here and get in much tighter, and also use the parting tool to remove some of that extra wood. So here we go. You'll get this close. That hole is 5/32 of an inch, so we'll see where we encounter it. There we go. See, it came off nice. Just a little hand sanding right there, and this piece is finished. Now, when I was prototyping this, I had to make a really small tenon on the top of the second piece because the top piece is so narrow, right? So I'm having to use pin jaws to hold this. Well, when I tightened this way down and then tried to hollow this like a bowl, it snapped the tenon because of the pressure. So on this piece, I'm going to recommend that you use a Jacob's chuck and a series of Forstner bits to just hollow it out a bit. So right now I have, I think it's a 2.5 inch one in here, and I'm going to turn this on slow speed. I'm just going to advance this in gently. And since I'm pushing straight into the piece, there's no stress on the tenon like it'd be from the side. Like it'd be from the side if you, oops, tighten that down a little bit more. Like it would be from the side if you were doing a bowl. So I'm just going to eye this in and go in like so. And that should be deep enough. I'm going to take that out. And then I'm just going to work my way through 2 more Forstner bits. So I'm making the hole gradually smaller as I go into the cone. Anyway, that saves you from hollowing out and snapping off the tenon. Now I've gone ahead and sanded the end here. And one little thing I'm doing right now that I had to modify when I first started making this was, remember I made the tenon on this a certain size because I got to be able to hold it, and it has to be this narrow because our angle comes up like this. If I made this wider, we'd have a bad angle. Well, the problem is that that drill bit, the first Forstner I used, has to be wide enough so I have the wall thickness I want, right? So then the tenon doesn't jam fit. So what I've done is I've been tapering this a little bit, so now you have a seating area for this, so it sits in there nice. You can glue this together when you're done if you want. They're LEDs, they probably won't die on you. So it would be something you could do. But the last thing I need to do is bring up the 1/2 inch drill bit, and I'm actually going to drill all the way through. So what we're doing here is we need that hole because that's how we run the LEDs through to the top of the tree. And why am I doing this as the last step? Because if I weaken this tenon by drilling a hole through it, there you can see the drill bit coming through right there. I can name that tune with one note. Dead cat. Anyway, it would weaken the tenon so much that you could crush it while you're working on it. Anyway, so now that's the middle piece, and we're on to the bottom of the tree. Now I have the third piece mounted, and I need to make a recess. God, this is a mess. To make this closing plug, which goes in and tidies everything up. So we're gonna make that recess right now. I want it to be about between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 inch deep. That's up to you how you want to do it. And I'm just going to use a parting tool. And this is 3 1/4 inches wide that I'm making this. And the reason it's that is because that's wide enough to support everything, but it's also narrow enough not to go into the edge. It gives me the thickness I need when I'm drilling here. Now, one difference here, let me move that just a bit closer. Since this has such a big, heavy tenon on it, it now has a lot of support, so I can actually turn this like a bowl. If you think about it, this is a bowl blank that's on here. So I'm just gonna take out a section at a time and work my way down and probably leave about a 1/2 inch, maybe a touch thicker wall all the way down. And the neat thing is it doesn't have to be curved. You can look straight down at it and see your line as you're going in. So it's a nice straight line when you do it. Just make sure you leave a little lip there so when you seat that plug, it has something to go up against. There you go. And it's just keep working my way in. Okay, I got that as deep as I want it, and that was easy to do. Slide this out of the way. I have my Forstner bit, my Jacobs chuck, excuse me, Forstner bit in my Jacobs chuck. This is 1 1/4 inches wide, and so now I need to drill a hole through this just like I did in the other, so I have room to pass the cables through. Why 1 1/4? Because it's slightly smaller than the width of the tenon I just made. So I want to just very gently go through. There we go. Now I've been making the disc here, the tenon basically, it's going to fit into the bottom of the tree. So in other words, this little lip I made right here, I'm making the disc that's going to fit into there. And so I've been playing with this, excuse me, and I got it to where it fits nicely. The next thing I have to do though is work on the depth. When you get calipers, they have this little neat rod in here that slides up and down. See how that goes in and out right there? So I take this in on the lip and I push this all the way down. So now it's showing me the depth. I'm going to tighten this down. So it's not very deep. I could have made that a little deeper. That's about 1/16 of an inch. So this could be a thin piece of wood when I get done here. Grab myself a pencil and make a mark here because I'm going to put this up right here. And there's my depth. So I'm going to make a mark right there. So I'm going to part this off. Now, ideally, if that was thicker, it'd be a lot easier to part off. So I'm going to start this up now. And yes, I did test to make sure that fit. Also, this piece of wood on here, I can see the mark, there it is being held onto a faceplate with double stick tape. And that's a very secure way to hold a piece of wood like this. I love doing it because you don't waste any wood then. But anyway, it's going to take me a little bit to part this down, and I'm not going to part all the way down. One, because it has a really long depth to go with a parting tool. The other is I have a 1/2 inch hole in here already, so it's going to make it hard to grab that if it popped off. The 1/2 inch hole, remember, is so the lights can pass up through there. So I'm going to take this down a ways, then I'm going to use a handsaw to cut it off the rest of the way. Yeah, there it is. Oh, what I'm doing right now is I'm drilling a hole that's, what's that, 3/8 of an inch. This is a 1/2 inch tenon, so this is just slightly smaller. So I've drilled a hole all the way through so our lights can pass through there, right? And this is a piece of babinga about 3 inches long, and it's going to be the base, or the stem, and then that base slides right onto there like so. So the tree goes out this way. On this end, I have a tenon. I had to make a 3/4 of an inch tenon to hold it in the little pin jaws. So I'm going to make a base now that this is going to fit into. Okay, I got my 2.5 inch piece of cocobolo mounted in the chuck jaws. Just doing a little pull cut here to give an edge to this. I've gone ahead and drilled a hole all the way through the bottom, same size as I did in the trunk of the tree. And then I also made a hole 3/4 of an inch that receives the tenon It's on the bottom of the tree trunk. And what I'm trying to do right now is establish where I want the bottom to be on this. I think the bottom's going to be about right there. So I have to do something very important. When you put this thing together, bring this over, the cable runs through the bottom, right? Well, you got to have this little, what would you call it, recess? So the cable comes out like that and it's not sitting on the cable. So now that I've marked the bottom, I'm going to take my hand drill with I think that's a 3/8 inch bit in there. Anyway, I've got my mark there. So I'm going to come just a little bit above the mark. And I'm going to drill a hole through the center and go into that hole I have in the middle. There, so I've got that hole. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish shaping this. It's real simple spindle turning, and then I'm going to sand this to about, well, I'm going to use a micro mesh and sand it to about 12,000 grit because Cocoa is really beautiful. Won't need a finish then. Then I'll part it off. Then we're ready to start putting lights in this thing. It's looking pretty good. Oops, wrong tool. Okay, now we're ready for assemblage, and remember, tiny lights. And I found them at Hobby Lobby. You can look it up online, tiny lights. Anyway, they're 20 per string, 20 lights per string, so I had to do the math. So we got 1 in the top, 3 on the sides here in this part. Then on this segment, we're doing 6 lights, and then that leaves us 10 for the bottom. So it worked out pretty good. As you can see, it distributed well. But anyway, I took a pencil and randomly marked around, kind of distributed the lights. Then I took an awl and poked it in there so I'd have a little starting point. And then I have a 5/32 drill bit. With these lights, this works the best. So I'm going to take this and drill through. And I'm drilling at an angle because when I have this and I put the lights in, it's easier to push up than it is to push straight across. So go at an angle on all of them. But anyway, stay clear of the rim here too. So I went into the rim. I'm going to need to adjust that a bit so that it doesn't bump out there. So we'll just take it in a little bit to the side. Okay, anyway, I've got 18 more holes to drill. Once I get done with that, I'll show you the joy of trying to fit everything in here. Now we're into the fun part. Just remember, thread your lights through the base, through the stem, through that, through this, then up to here. And see, that's looking good already. And let's see, let me pull that back down there and put a couple in here. Anyway, if these lights, by chance, happen to slide in the hole too easily, you can just take yourself a little bit of tape, do one wrap around here, and it thickens it up just enough to fit in the hole. Anyway, so once you put all this together, you wind up with a beautiful LED tree. And I love this project. This is going to be something you're going to put on your mantle and save for years. Now, one thing I'd recommend, once you get this together, I would go ahead and glue all these sections together all the way through because these LEDs will never burn out. This will probably die first, and this will go 170 hours as it is. And one little trick you can do too is take this, put it in a little box, leave a hole so you can get to the switch, and decorate the box like it's a gift, and you can have it under the tree. I think that's pretty cool. But anyway, before you put all the lights in, just remember, put a finish on it too. Anyway, that is how you make an LED Christmas tree. So until the next time, keep turning. That thing still creeps me out.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust, built to turn wood, enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a wood turner for wood turners.